It is Wednesday. That means it's time for another episode of Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, or BRAP, as we're known in the gaming streets. What's up, everyone? Big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And do me a favor, I'm going to drop a link here in the live chat. Please retweet the link on your favorite social media platform or, Twitters. But yeah, look, we have a little bit of a slower news week compared to last week, but we do have a lot to talk about. We do have, first of all, the BRAP panel members will be trickling in here as the show progresses. But we do have a returning guest. We have Chrono, who has I think it's been maybe 2 months since we last had you on, but for those who don't remember, Chrono actually did formerly work in the gaming industry, worked for PlayStation, but he's kind enough here to join us this evening. So happy to have him back, man. Chrono, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, thank you for having me. Love hanging out and just talking video games with people. So always good. And now I can't get into trouble for talking about PlayStation in either direction. So
This is true. Maybe you can give us a little more insight into the inner workings of all things PlayStation. So, yeah, but we will have, like I said, we will have the rest of the regular BRAP panel. They'll be joining us here shortly, and we'll have Game Logic actually joining us here shortly as well. So, but like I said, man, kind of a slow news week, I guess, right? I mean, compared to last week where we had like Summer Games Fest and we had, the Xbox Showcase, which, look, I'll be honest with you, man. I gave the Xbox Showcase Xbox Bethesda Showcase, I should say. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Because I'm a huge, Bethesda fan, or stan, if you will. So, but real quick, before I get your opinions on the show, Chrono, on that show, just want to introduce Game Logic. What's up, Game Logic? Saw you playing the. Well, I didn't see you live, but I saw the replay of you playing the Sweaties last night on Halo Infinite. Get some time in with the Sweaties, man. How's it going tonight, Logic? All right, maybe he's not there. Okay. So Chrono, what did you think, man? Like, just overall, just quick thoughts on the show, what you saw.
yeah, all things considered, considering what the very lack of gaming information in general leading up to the event, what they showed, there were some fun stuff. A lot of it, none of it really struck me as system sellers, at least not for me, because I've never been a huge Bethesda fan. Forza looked really, really nice. There was a lot of the smaller titles that really intrigued me. But I definitely a 7 out of 10 would probably be a good score for me. It was functional. It had games. I just wish it had some more AAA bangers,
You don't say. Bangers, if you will. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see some bangers too, Yeah, I mean,
I have no doubt. Well, I have no doubt that some of the stuff, for some people, like Redfall, may really speak to some people. But for me, I'm very much a single player, story driven, narrative driven gamer, and so none of those games really struck me as having anything to do with narrative, really. So, it all struck me as multiplayer style games. I'm just like, maybe if I ever decide to hang out at someone's house that has an Xbox, maybe.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, no, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, it was, I guess, serviceable, right? You didn't use that exact word, but that's kind of, I think, what you were alluding to. But yeah, I would agree with a lot of a lot of what you said. So, but Logic, are you there, man?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, man. Yes. I don't know if you heard me say you were getting down with the Sweaties last night, man, on Halo Infinite.
I did. I had everything set up, but hadn't wired everything up to Discord. Yeah, so I was clapping cheeks last night. That is certainly true, sir.
So what was your were you like wrecking shop? Because I know you say like when you're not playing with me, you're getting like you're going like 22-5 and stuff like that, and
I was rolling deep. Yeah, no doubt. Last night I had some very good matches. I had a couple battles. It's that typical thing when you run into a team that is clearly on comms, and my team is like not sticking together, not just kind of all over the place. So, but no, there were some very good matches. Some good teammates that I played with for those good matches too.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. You're right. Like comms obviously make the difference, make a huge difference. So, yeah, it's it's certainly a leg up, right? If you have that, and but that's it. It's interesting. Like when you play with me, it's like you say like I don't know if I bring in even more sweaties or maybe a different level of sweat.
as far as I understand it, it is skill based matchmaking going on behind it. So I am probably not on your level. But to tell you the truth, what has definitely made it worse is it's no offense to you. I think you have plateaued because you're one of the great ones. I've actually gotten better, right? Because I've just never been a historical Halo player. So what has made it worse, and what I can definitely tell, is as my standalone matches have gotten worse, our matches have gotten that much worse. Because now it's not like you and me way down here, right, at the apprentice level. Now it's you and me coming in like as a journeyman, right? So now our matches are even that much sweatier.
Wow. Well, I got to get back on. I haven't been playing because I went back, finally beat Horizon Forbidden West, which, wow, what a great game. Like, I cannot wait for the third installment of the game. Like, I love the story. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil it, but very much enjoyed the game. Like, Chrono, I don't know if you know anyone at Gorilla, but please, if you do, send him my personal thanks. Because it was
like I was telling you before the show, I just an hour before we hopped on, I literally just platinumed the game, finished it. So I hope that we don't have to wait too long for the third one, but I also hope that this will be completely on the PlayStation 5, no longer tied to or hampered by potentially the PS4, although I could also see them, because of complete the storyline, it'd be good to keep it also on the PS4. But I just hope that it's just like, let the floodgates go, create it strictly for the PS5, and let's go.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think for a cross-gen game, I gotta be honest with you, man, it's one of the best looking games that I've played, and it's cross-gen, and it's the best first-party AAA game on a current-gen console that I've seen, and it's cross-gen. It's wizardry. What that Decima engine and whatever they're doing at Guerrilla is just wizardry. But I always thought Guerrillas made good-looking games anyway. I mean, if you go back, Killzone.
Definitely, even Killzone.
Yeah, I mean, Killzone was always
game.
Beautiful looking game. Yeah, I'll never forget when they showcased the PlayStation 4 the first time, and there was that opening scene of you were, I guess, like in a helicopter or something, and they were showing the city, just kind of give you just level of scope, right, with the game and what it could potentially do, and someone said Horizon Forbidden West Game of the Year. No, I still think that goes to Elden Ring, but that's another conversation. So, but Logic, man, I got to get back to Halo, man, because I'm getting that itch again, man. I'm getting that itch to play some Fiesta Slayer, which I think I saw you playing. I think you actually were in a match, Fiesta Slayer. I saw you running around with the needler, and then looks like it switched over to like a battle rifle, like a pistol or something like that is what I saw. So.
Yeah, I like at my level. I like the Fiesta matches I get into because it's not that sweat to the level of the cheese curds that we run into, right? The guys who like
exactly, yeah,
only pick up hammer, sword, and spanker, right? So people play Fiesta the way
Speaker.
I feel. The way I feel Fiesta should be played. Fiesta should be a mode that forces you to play with certain weapons, even the weapons that they're not good. Like they should. I feel like they should really make a Fiesta mode where there are no weapon drops. Like when somebody gets killed, their weapons are just gone, and you're forced to play with like these weapons that you don't normally play with, because that to me is the point of Fiesta. But it's a really good conversation I think that we're having, because one of the things that I did this week was I wrote kind of sort of a manifesto. And as always, I'm always kind of try to pull these matters of kind of, introspective, thoughts on games apart, and who we are as gamers. And one of the things I wrote about is over the last few years, it started 3 years ago or so when, for some reasons on our podcast, we felt we had thrown shade at podcasts for a number of years. Did I say podcast? I meant to say Star Citizen. On our podcast, we had thrown shade at Star Citizen for a number of years. And at the end of 2018, I who was part of that shade throwing, threw up my hands at all of us, and I said, look, guys, if we're going to continue to throw shade at Star Citizen, someone needs to go not just play the game, but like live in the community, because there's something clearly going on there that is weird and out of the norm. And we need to be able to report on it at a greater level of granularity than we currently do. And so I did that. And one of the things that kindled in me is like Chrono mentioned, I had historically for, I don't know, maybe 20 years at that point, been a story narrative driven, right? Point A to point B, what's the term for the SIE design pattern? Near linear wide path kind of gamer, right? And I had gone into open world and yada yada yada. But I was one of those people who looked for story and cinematics and set pieces, right? Going into Star Citizen, which is essentially an MMO, which I had historically stayed away from, kindled in me a different interest in gaming. And one of the things that's kind of curious with the optics that gamers constantly put on games and then shows and then intermixes and commingles with this, idiotic console war and the brand standing is, right, people many times will throw shade at games that are just not in their wheelhouse, that they're never going to play, because that is just not the type of gamer that they are. And when we talk about this difference between, narrative story driven versus multiplayer, I know for me, we've gone back and forth on my podcast, and we have one of our co-hosts who, when I was a story-driven guy, and I said there's enough PvP, I hate battle royale, right? Yada yada. He would always say, it would be an argument. He'd always say, no, there's room for both. I quite honestly, I'm not one of those people. I cannot maintain the skill levels to play in competitive PvP when I'm constantly off tracking and going back to the story driven stuff. And I've been doing that for the last few years, and it's been a struggle. And most recently, and kind of where I am right now, I have said, I'm done with the narrative story driven stuff for a while. I'm okay leaving that behind. I've played that content for 20 plus years. I really want to dive deep on PvP, but that also gives me like a different optic. And I think it goes also to this commentary on Starfield, where people say, they don't like what Starfield's offering. And I'm like, Starfield's not offering a near linear wide path, right, kind of design pattern, right? At the end of the day, those games are still all about getting from point A to point B. They may offer you branching paths to get there. They may allow you the opportunity to traverse an open world to get there. But they're still about getting from point A to point B, right? Or maybe point A to points B, C, D, and E, if it's got multiple outcomes. But Starfield, right, potentially offers something that is almost more akin to, I'll liken it to the MMO experience in as much that it is, in my mind, it's about a space exploration, combat action RPG, right? It's a weird intermix of a bunch of genres. But one of the heavy elements is space exploration. And if you're not into space exploration, if it doesn't jazz you, right, with the potential to visit 1,000 planets, then it's probably not a game for you. So it's just an interesting conversation of something that I've been engaged in trying to kind of pull apart this week, in the writing medium more so than podcasting.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Like I kind of bounce around back and forth between PvP, more linear story driven experiences. Um, Very similar to how I eat food, like or enjoy different types of beverages. I may be an IPA guy for a month and then switch to something else. Yeah, I do drink from the tap. Game Logic, by the way. But my tastes kind of vary. Like, and I there's times where it's like, okay, I need to have, I need some PvP. I want that. Pick up the controller, get into a competitive match, have fun, and hopefully get some cool armor and shit, right? And then there's like, I just went back to Rise of Forbidden West, and I just felt like, okay, I've been doing the PvP thing for a couple of weeks. I want to go back to Rise of Forbidden. I want to be told a good story, right? I want to be immersed in a world. And so I kind of like bounce around, and it's funny, like we talk about not Star Citizen, but not God, why almost called Elden Ring, but Starfield, and you mentioned the kind of the criticism Starfield is going to get. I know we talked about this last week, but again, like Starfield is a Bethesda game, and some of the criticism I'm seeing about this game is like, wait a minute, has anyone actually played a Bethesda game? Because this is a Bethesda game, like there isn't anything like different that Bethesda is doing here. Like this is a next generation or current generation Bethesda game, if you will. So, and actually, Kurt, I meant to ask you, man, like, what did you think of Starfield when you saw that? Because I know we asked you about the show, but what did you think of Starfield?
Because there's too much in terms of the design as a whole, that the design language that Bethesda goes through with every single one of their games. I just it does not resonate with me at all. I've always felt that a lot of their games are just too slow, and the design is always too generic. Earth tones, browns and grays with no real character or flair for me. Which is why, like, I've always preferred JRPGs in terms of bombastic style. Everyone is just like, oh, it always takes once you get out of the vault, or once you get past the first dungeon, the game is really, really great. And I'm just like, yeah, but the fact that it takes 2 or 3 hours for me to get to that point, for me to really sink my teeth in, by that time it already lost me. And so I worry that if they follow that same design philosophy, that Starfield's going to be the same situation. I give it the benefit of the doubt when it does, as it gets closer to being released, but based on what I saw, it doesn't speak to me. But we'll see what happens when the game comes out and the reviews happen. So
yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, you may not, like you said, like it may not be a game for you, and that's fine. But I do want to go to Super Chat real quick. My buddy T-Rock40, because I'm an island boy. And it's a joke between me and T-Rock. With the $5 Super Chat. Thank you for that. T-Rock says, the true game of the year is Fortnite. No build mode with Darth Vader and the Battle Pass. They got me back in. Are you playing Fortnite, T-Rock? I don't know. I didn't know you'd play, but that's cool, man. Hey, if that's your game of the year, so be it. But so look, we don't talk about Nintendo a lot on the show, but I do want to bring up Nintendo real quick because they did show off Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I was already interested in picking up this game. I am going to be picking up this game in July 29th, I believe, is the release date. But did anyone catch the I guess the direct, if you will, for Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
I saw parts of it. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. It is definitely the type of game that will want to play, love to conceptually play. I will buy it, and then we'll sit in a pile of things that I'll get to eventually. But it is definitely a game that I want to purchase at the very least to support. So,
yeah, I hear you. What about you, Logic? Did you get a chance to watch this?
I did not. I am Chrono's opposite in that JRPGs have never resonated with me, and I've spent a significant amount of time just trying to force myself to get over that hump. I've played or tried to play plenty. And eventually it just always grinds down to trying to think of an appropriate term that's not insulting. It doesn't keep me engaged, so I wind up falling off. So no, I don't keep up and track that news cycle as much.
Yeah, so you're not upset or feel like Square Enix spat in your face for not putting Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Xbox, which we'll talk about later on. But
no, not one bit. I mean, I figure if I really need to play a Final Fantasy game, I can always go play it on PC.
This is true.
And the titles, the titling schema, like I said, not being inside that particular ballpark of baseball, the titles and like are so, I don't want to say weird. They're just so foreign to me that like, you know, one specific one not coming to a platform wouldn't shatter the earth for me at all.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but yeah, I caught like little pieces of it. I was actually on a call and had it streaming like on my phone while I was on this call, on a Teams call. So I saw a little bit of it, caught some bits and pieces, but I thought the game looked. I love the aesthetic of it. I'm interested in playing this game. They did go over some of the battle pass systems and revealed some additional features with the game. Like they're going to have an expansion pass and collector's edition. The expansion pass costs about $30, includes a new story scenario, which releases at the end of 2023. And at launch, the pass will add like helpful items and outfit color variants, things like that. And by the end of 2022, there'll be like new challenge battles, new heroes and quests, new outfits, things like that will be added to it as well. So I don't know if that's something I'm going to get. Spend $30 on that. I don't know. That's just probably not. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, definitely, Jeremy. Or Chrono. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you by your real name. Definitely something. Yeah, it's definitely a game I'm going to be picking up, man. There was actually something else that they I forget what it was. They're like you can like combine two characters. You can interlink your characters or something like that between two party members or something. To like I forget what it was. There was something that to create like this mech-like creature, which I thought was pretty cool. I have to go back and watch it, but I did hear that or catch a glimpse of that in the direct. So, but yeah, July 29th is the release date, and look, man,
shit.
Yeah, July, yeah, right, end of July, man. So I gotta dust my Switch is getting no love right now, no love. It's time to dust that bad boy off, man. I haven't played it since Metroid Prime Dread, so that just gives you an idea of, or Metroid Dread, so it gives you an idea of how long it's been out of commission. So
and is that an entirely new entry in the series, or is it some type of remake or rehash?
What's that?
It's a brand new game. Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah, it's the newest one.
It's a newest one, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so somebody said Mario Strikers, but I think we had someone on last week said Mario Strikers wasn't good. I forget who that was. Oh no, that was actually on Crossfire. That was RGT who said that. So, but yeah, I've been meaning to check out Mario Strikers as well. But I gotta get Nintendo some love, man. I got that Nintendo OLED Switch. It's just sitting there. So hopefully the battery still works. I've been using it a long time. But anyhow, speaking of PlayStation. And some of you remember, Chrono did work for PlayStation. So Chrono, hopefully now you can be a little more candid. But PlayStation is not going to be at Gamescom 2022. My quick take on this, as a fan, would have been nice for them to be there. Yes, but I think they clearly can have an impact just doing a show. And stream it on YouTube, or like a state of play, or like what do they call? I forget what they call the PlayStation Showcase. Is it the what is it called? Is it the Showcase, PlayStation Showcase, or not the state of play, but like the big show? Play? No, the big one.
The PlayStation Experience.
I don't know. What was the big one they had last September? What was it called? It wasn't a state of play.
September.
Yeah, I thought State of Play is their regular recurring, and then I thought that like the larger, more significant ones they've been calling a showcase.
Maybe it's a showcase, yeah. So I think with the impact that they can have just doing that, and Chrono, we talked behind the scenes, and you'd probably know better than most people, but going to these shows is expensive, right?
Yes, I mean logistics of it, both from a design but also from legal, to make sure that everyone has accessibility. So the logistics that go into that, um, and the construction, and just making sure that everything is working. I mean, the wheels, the cogs that they have going on behind the scenes to get that stuff done. Um, and with a show as big as like Gamescom, which is, the equivalent of like an E3 of level, um, definitely they would have spent a ton to make sure that it would have been an amazing experience. And so, um, just the amount of money that they're saving not being out there, um, is probably doing wonders to their bottom line. On top of that, there's something to be said about one. I mean, obviously, we're not technically free from the vid, so an event like that would definitely potentially be a super spreader. Um, Gamers, as much as I love and consider myself a gamer, collectively we are a dirty bunch, and so I'm sure that it'll be some sort of weird strain of disease that'll pop up because
New are you
put
saying
their
like a new
fingers in
COVID
it.
strain? Like
Be surprised, because I distinctly remember there was one time I was working the Mortal Kombat control booth at an event. I can't remember which event it was. Great fun. But oh my God, we're talking about people like legit eating before handling the controller. I had to seek out wipes just to get just
sir,
like,
we're gonna need you to put
why do you
that
think
peanut
this is a
butter
good
jelly
idea?
sandwich down before you touch a DualSense controller.
It was no, it was I think it was pizza. It was just like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Guy rolls up there eating
um,
wings.
right? Yeah, licking his fingers. I got
Yeah.
this. I got game next.
Let me try on that
Um,
PSVR 2 headset right now.
but yeah, I mean, not only that, but it's also if they do decide to do a showcase or a state of play, it's them being able to control the message in a controlled environment. So, which is
Yeah,
also
that's a great
something
point.
that
Yeah.
is a good thing.
Yeah, what's funny? I not that it's funny, but I've heard stories about I guess hygiene at some of these shows, and I've heard that some people just smell like they aren't wearing deodorant, and that's what I've heard from people that have gone to these shows. So I've never been to a show like that, but trust that BRAP would be wearing lots of deodorant. Yeah. So Game Logic, any thoughts on Gamescom, PlayStation not being there? What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I was actually trying to Google some stuff. I mean, in general, it seems like, I mean, I'm sure COVID is a big driver, but I also feel like this is all pointed in the direction of where the manufacturers are kind of getting less and less interested in the notion of these large trade shows being where they announce games, right? Just in terms of them wanting to control their own news cycle, and when that news cycle like drives and has an event-driven, calendar-driven trigger that is maybe not in sync with their development cycle or where their teams are, or the topic we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. A demo is typically in a vertical slice of a game, right? It's a stub of the code. It is not the entire like development, right, under development projects, running on a dev kit. And so time has to be spent, right, in establishing where that demo kicks off, where that demo ends. Lots of these things are often on stilts and duct tape and wire, right? With like, if it is a live play with somebody with a controller in their hand, there is a limited script of things that you can do, right? And sometimes events have to be very tightly controlled, and so additional constraints have to be put into that vertical slice on the demo. So there's development effort. I've always said, from a development perspective, and I've been at companies who have had trade shows, right, that again are this calendar-driven thing, and the conversation is constantly, that is not on my development calendar and schedule, and it is not my priority, right? So you guys go do whatever you need to do, but I'm not taking labor effort out of my development team to go off and do this. Doesn't directly benefit me shipping the code on time, right? It's often an argument that I get overridden for. So, but the point is that look, this is labor effort and it takes time. One of the things I'm curious about, I think you guys have kind of prognosticated that, there's potentially going to be some type of PlayStation showcase in the, late summer, early fall-ish, maybe August, September-ish, and that's when maybe they're going to talk about God of War, Ragnarok. This show is, I think, August 23rd through August 28th. It also runs concurrently with the with GDC, with the Game Developers Conference, and so, again, it's labor effort. It's putting people on a plane. It's shipping people off, right, to go do stuff. And I can see where if you're trying to pull off a show in August and September, that might, again, not necessarily be in your centric lane of interest.
Yeah, no, and the other thing too, and great points by the way, Logic. The other thing too, is, and I saw people. Oh, I should stop quoting Twitter, but it's a source of entertainment at times. I did see people say this was a mistake. How can Sony do this? And I'm like, it's not a mistake. We haven't had trade shows in how long? They've had an impact not going to these trade shows, with just doing these state of plays, like you said, Game Logic. They're kind of controlling the news cycle, right? And when the eyes are on them now, and when the media is talking about them, and when YouTubers are talking about them, they're kind of like. And again, I think this goes back to, and I don't know if you said this before, Chrono, or it was you, Game Logic, but I think it kind of goes back to the fact that I think Sony is positioned the PlayStation as this kind of exclusive or luxury item. And to me, when I think of a luxury item, I think of something high end. I think of something that's going to want to do things to maybe separate itself from the rest of the pack, per se, if that makes sense. And I would even say that from a marketing perspective, and perhaps this is, them doing that. But with all the chatter and everything about them missing and Gamescom and it being a mistake, I don't think it's a mistake. They're not going to be there. I think they'll be fine. Also, they're not the only ones that aren't attending the show. Nintendo's not going to be there. Nintendo's doing just fine. Nintendo really hasn't been doing the trade show thing for years now. And also Activision, Blizzard, and Take-Two already previously announced they're not going to be at Gamescom either. So Sony's not the only big player, if you will, in the industry that's not going to be there. So,
well, I mean, this is the thing that we always say. Although I don't always necessarily agree with it. I sometimes feel like I at least personally want some transparency on what Sony has coming down the pike. But the fact of the matter is, from a competitive market perspective, right? They're the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? Who really cares, right? If they announce anything whenever, right, it's not going to necessarily impact what people are buying. We've talked before, in recent history, that a lot of the times, games that are announced then are more so recruiting vehicles, right, for developers and other engineers, rather than necessarily, speaking to, speakeasy to fans. So, I don't think that there's a business imperative for them to be at the show, but it does just make it curious and interesting, what they're planning to do. I mean, this I think is actually the largest trade show. So actually was bigger than E3.
Yep.
So, that's an even larger impact. And so in my comment before, it's not GDC that it runs concurrently with. I guess it was an old developer focused show that used to run alongside it that I don't think is in existence anymore. But just point being, as it is the largest show, there was not only that activity, but a lot of other concurrent activities, which, again, I could see would reinforce the need and desire for, Sony and other large corporations to pull out of it if it didn't necessarily benefit, where they were in the business cycle.
Yeah, and that so that leads me to kind of this other question, like what is going to happen with are we ever gonna are we gonna see? Because again, there's talk around God of War being released November. So how do we suspect that Sony does a show in August? How soon do they need to do a show if God of War is releasing in August then? Like,
Yeah,
what do
I
you think,
mean,
Reno?
historically, when there's a game, they would, do that showcase that specifically focused on that game at least a month and a half to 2 months before the game drops. So, I mean, I guess it would put within the right time frame. Uh, yeah, I mean that would just make the most sense. But at the same time, does what do they need aside from like a release date? Do they really need to show anything else? I mean, God of War fans will love it regardless of what happens. So
Yeah, I guess so. So you're saying they don't even do? So are you saying that Sony doesn't even need to do like a PlayStation showcase event like they did last September? That they could just do like a state of play for God of War and then that's it?
yeah, I mean, like Horizon didn't have its, if I remember correctly, Horizon didn't necessarily even have its own. They tacked it on like 10 minutes before another showcase had ended. I mean, but Gran Turismo had its own standalone.
It did,
So,
yeah.
I mean, but I guess it would boil down to, I mean, God of War is like a big bread and butter title for us. So us, whoa, I don't work for them anymore. I mean, it's a big bread and butter title for PlayStation. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do hold their own God of War specific state of play.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I do think though they would probably um that they would probably do something though, because I do think, and I think about like Jim Ryan talking about like the focus of let's do the let's we're gonna make the games, we're gonna let the games do the talking, right? And you got to imagine like from everything we've heard that there's this really aggressive push to lock down second third party content, obviously the push to get more first party content out. I gotta imagine they do a big event though. Like I don't see them, and I could be wrong, I mean just it's pure speculation here.
No,
I just
I
go ahead,
agree.
Lord.
I don't see them remaining silent and absent off the marketing landscape, right, for the entirety of the second half of 2022. Like I just don't think that's likely. I mean, like you said, they did a big showcase back in September. I feel like even if Ragnarok doesn't come out, right, what we've talked about before is that, look, with the hole left by Redfall and Starfield, like Xbox is going to do stuff, right, which is kind of what their most recent show was, right? It may not have necessarily been a large resonating megaton, right, that would convince people to get off of a fence and fall on the Xbox yard, right? It was just stuff. It was just activity. It was showing of level of effort. It was showing of commitment to continue barreling down this path, and that's, like I said, that's what they needed to do. It's a 7-9 team, right, walking by the skin of their teeth into the playoffs, right, and you can't expect like miraculous things to happen, right? It was not to maintain the status quo, but it was to show that they were still in the game. Sony, due to that absence, has an opportunity to grab the remainder of the mindshare that they don't already own, right, going into this fall. And like I said, even if Ragnarok doesn't come out, I don't see them totally ignoring that opportunity to own the gaming voice track, right, for the fall and turning the corner. If the corner this holiday season is contributed to only by marketing momentum, right, in terms of who's going to have momentum going into what is probably the March timeframe, late February March timeframe of some larger games, both from both camps, from both the Sony and the Microsoft camp, it would seem that you would want to put some elbow grease right behind that machine and keep it moving downfield.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Game Logic. Yeah, no, I definitely do. You mentioned mindshare. Are you saying they have a lot of mindshare?
I mean, look, I mean, they own the bulk of the market share of the addressable market. Theoretically, that is a formula that seems to be changing every day. But for the time being, just based on install base, right, they are the largest chunk.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. But before we move on to the next subject, any other thoughts, Chrono, on Sony not being at Gamescom?
I as someone that has worked at shows and someone that it just enjoys the spectacle of it all, I miss those days.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah. I miss the
that's
spectacle of
the
E3.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss those days. But unfortunately, it's just the way it is nowadays. So it sucks as a gamer, the buzz and excitement that, as people bob and weave and dodge spoilers and leaks to finally get something at a show. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe hopefully some day we'll find a way to get back to the shows. So.
Yeah, the spectacle of it all is what I miss too. And it's funny as we're talking about God of War, I just remember that epic reveal at the PlayStation event where they had the live orchestra.
Mm.
And you do you remember that? I was like holy shit, like this is happening. And it had been rumored for such a long time, and then you see Kratos turn around, and it's like, and the live orchestra's playing. I'm just like, I was blown away. But that's what I miss. That's what I miss. You don't, and you see the fan reactions. That's the part that I miss. So I'm with you on that, man. But yeah, I do want to go to some other PlayStation related. I guess so much. Well, I guess more leaks. And I don't know if you saw this, Chrono, but there seems to be a rumor that Sony is going to add new headsets and monitors that are compatible with the PlayStation 5. When I mean monitors, I mean like what we consider like gaming monitors, apparently. So according to a report by I don't know how to pronounce this, Exputer, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It said that Sony's getting ready to potentially reveal a new Pro controller, which I think that's been rumored for a while, and there could be new headsets and monitors be revealed as well, including the H series headsets, namely the InZone H3, the InZone H7, the InZone H9. Report said there could also be 2 different monitors included that have features exclusively for the PlayStation 5. These features include HDR tone mapping and auto genre picture mode. Obviously, the monitors are said to be described as being perfect for the PlayStation 5 and receive VR support along with low latency. So, again, these are rumors right now. But what do you think, Kronos, man? Do you see them releasing? Because this would be new for them. I mean, I know that Sony is a hardware company as well, right? Or I should say as well, but they are a hardware manufacturer as well. What do you think about these rumors, man? Do you think that there's some? Could you see this happening where they release, monitors specifically for the PlayStation 5?
I wonder exactly if this is actually a PlayStation initiative or if this is a partnership with Sony Electronics.
It's a great point.
Did they get the accessories team to actually go ahead and develop and create these proper accessories, or is it being handled by the guys at Sony Electronics? And then one of the funniest things that I always found it odd is that despite the fact that PlayStation has always pretty much been for the last few years the breadwinner of Sony proper, we were always treated as the redheaded stepchild. Like, we would have a hell of a time working with Sony Electronics to try and even get TVs to use for for our projects, like demos and stuff like that. So they just, for some unknown reason, they never wanted to work with us. And it always struck me as so short-sighted because the PlayStation brand is very, very famous, and you could use that to sell TVs. Like, hey, brand this is perfect for your PlayStation. and they never really did that in any sort of their marketing work. So, I wonder if these new monitors or TVs, if they are Sony Electronic, or if they created by them with the marketing blurb, or if these are created by Sony, the PlayStation accessories team. And the same thing with the headsets. I mean, since they did have a division that focused on audio, are these optimized for PlayStation, or were they created in partnership with PlayStation in mind? So it'd be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And what do you think about the headsets, the rumored headsets?
I couldn't find anything, but I didn't see anything about them, so I don't know exactly what they offered. You don't by chance have any information, do you?
No, I just saw like the prices of the headsets, anywhere from $99 to $200 to $300.
Mhm.
But that's yeah, that's all I know. That's all that I saw. I mean, there's like a leaked picture. The 3 headphones come with 360 spatial sound for gaming. That's all I know. The 3 models. That's all that was leaked, at least. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find. This is gonna include a flip down, flip up boom mic. Yeah, that's all I know, or read at least. So, if anyone else
I mean,
in the live chat has any other different information any additional information you want to share, definitely put it in the live chat. But that's all I know, man.
I mean, like the headsets that PlayStation had developed were perfectly good for the price point.
Those three,
really enjoyed.
those 3 the Pulse headsets, the 3D audio headsets.
Yeah,
Those are great, man.
I still use the Platinum headsets from the PS4. Hell, I even still have the original 3D Pulse headsets that came out on the PS3 days, that have the bass inside headsets so that it rumbles essentially. Obnoxious as hell, but it's a whole lot of fun. And I saw someone in the chat bring up the 3D monitor that PlayStation brought out during the PS3 era. So it wouldn't be unprecedented. We have done things like that. But again, the rumors aren't clear as to exactly which division is actually bringing these out. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Logic, what are your thoughts on this, man? Are you going to be picking up one of these monitors, man, to maybe do a little PC gaming on?
No. For the monitors, I mean, I will say there seems to be an addressable market for large format, high performance monitors for that kind of are convergence devices for both PC and current generation console gaming. So Asus has one of these out. It's a 43-inch 4K HDR 144 hertz display that supports both DisplayPort and HDMI 2.0. So I've looked at these a few times, and I've backed off of them just because high speed first person shooter PvP action on PC is not great as you scale to larger and larger monitors, because you're sitting up on the desk playing on mouse and keyboard. So actually, when you look at your big esports players and your heavy PvPers, they are typically playing on 25-inch monitors, right? So that they don't have to spread their eyeballs as wide, so to speak. I'm looking at a large display monitor. So I think there's definitely an addressable market for that. I'm glad Chrono brought up what he brought up, because this is a thing that I have attempted often to convey to people that gamers seem to choose to ignore or not understand, right? But the Sony corporate structure is not too different from what old Microsoft used to be in terms of the degree of dissonance and disharmony between those divisions. There has historically not been a one Sony mentality to the way those divisions perform. And before Kaz, they were even more divergent. I want to, under my review of the history shows that under Kaz was the start of as much of a motion as there's ever been for those divisions to work a little more closely together. You've historically had problems with every console generation, but I think the volume was highest on the PlayStation 3 generation, where Bravia TVs would not work with a PlayStation 3 or wouldn't support all of its modes. And that to me, from an engineering perspective, in business leadership would just be something that I would just feel like professionally embarrassing. Like how dare our own branded televisions not work with our own console? But that synergy makes it make sense for them to do things like offer monitors, particularly when a thing that's impinging the overall market is the availability of HDMI 2.0 displays, right? And so just as the consoles are constrained, there also, to me, doesn't appear to be a huge amount of product choice and SKU choice and vendor choice, right, for high-performance TVs with HDMI 2.0 that seems to be still fairly constrained in comparison to other technologies that are available, right, in televisions that you would normally want to buy for a display. So Sony adding to that supply chain, I think would be helpful and would be something beneficial to them. The headsets to me is the one that seems the most weird. Like, as you all mentioned, right, and I had that Pulse 3D headset before I got rid of my PlayStation 5, and it's a great headset, and I've had the gold headset and the platinum
and thank you for
headset.
that, by the way, Game Logic.
Yeah, no problem. But I've always liked those headsets for their audio capability.
I think they're great, man. I'm sorry, go ahead, man, but they're great.
Yeah, no. The 3D audio and its tightly woven compatibility with the PlayStation 5 was just on. I don't know that I would use any other headset with the PlayStation 5 right now. But I don't think of Sony as the brand of multiplayer headset, right? That equipment and peripherals that I would necessarily want to go after. The pictures that have been posted did not appear to be particularly elegant from a design perspective to me.
Yeah, I saw that. They didn't look as sleek, I think, as the Pulse 3D headsets. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah. So that part of the addressable market, that to me is not an area where I would make a play, where I wouldn't feel like my core competency was strong enough to allow me to seed stuff into that adjacency, and I would just leave that stuff to Corsair and Razer and SteelSeries, etc., to let them fulfill that part of the market. But that's just me.
Yeah. It is funny. You mentioned SteelSeries, like, the design doesn't look that leaked image doesn't look anything like different than what you might get from like a SteelSeries headsets, right? Where I thought the Pulse 3D audios look very unique, high end, if you will. And as you mentioned, Logic, I mean, they work fantastic on the PlayStation 5. So I recommend if you have a PS5, don't have those headsets, grab them. They're fantastic. But with the monitors apparently to be 4K 144, then like full HD at 240 something, whatever it is, which is what's rumored. But no, it's not going to be something that that I purchase. I have a OLED TV, which I think is pretty good for gaming, that I use for my PlayStation 5, and then I also have my Acer monitor, which again, Game Logic, you recommended. Thank you for that recommendation, sir. No, it's cool. I think it's interesting that they're doing this. We know you mentioned Bravia now, but now the Bravias work in tandem with the PlayStation console. So, but you're right. That was kind of weird that was the case years ago with Sony Game Logic. So,
yeah, have we heard anything more about that? Like, are these monitors supposed to be? I just see a mention of HDR tone mapping and auto genre picture mode, which again, these are so marketing terms that I don't know really mean anything. But people will glom onto as if they are of significance, and I don't think that they will be. But I don't see any mention of any of the other technologies that would be in those displays. So I know you guys mentioned news information on this is sparse, but anything specifically on the monitors?
No, just the refresh rate. What I heard, I think HDR. I forget what HDR is going to be on the 4K one. I forget, man. Is it HDR 6000 or something? Does that sound right?
I don't know. I see this blurb of HDR tone mapping in auto genre picture mode and VRR support. but nothing of the specifics where I would want to line it up next to this Asus monitor, which is $1,000. Typically runs anywhere from high 800s to low 1000s, but I would want to line it up next to that thing. And see how it compares. That would be the other big thing, at least for me as a gamer too. I'm not going to drop $1,000 on a monitor that just works with a PlayStation. I would want to know that.
Oh, I did also remember. I'm sorry, Game Logic. G-Sync compatible.
Oh yes, yeah. I didn't see that for this, so that is great news. That means you can obviously connect it to a PC and get value out of it. And when I say just works with a PlayStation, obviously it's literally not going to just work with a PlayStation, but I mean it's going to have technologies inside it that are beneficial and can be utilized by other platforms, so that I get some special sauce out of it when I'm using something else on it besides just a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, you gotta imagine it's going to be compatible with PC or allow you to.
No, if the monitor's coming from Sony, I don't have to imagine that, right? Because it's Sony. This is the corporation that's the master of the proprietary media format, right? This is the company that.
Oh God.
This is the company that does weird stuff, right?
Is that wishful thinking then? I mean, I say that because G-Sync compatible, right? So you got to believe that it's.
That's good. I would just want assurances. That's all I'm saying. It's not something I would take for granted walking into it, right? I mean,
fair enough,
this is a company that's so
Logic, you're acting like you've been hurt before.
The Sony thing has burned me before. Hey, I was a guy who rebuilt multiple PCs due to the Sony CD-ROM kit issue of early 2000s or whatever. I don't forget easily when it comes to tech. So, and PlayStation has evolved greatly. I don't know that I would attribute the same positive Darwin effect to the rest of the corporation. I'm big on Sony cameras. I'm a big Sony Alpha user. That is my mirrorless ICL of choice. And I have a couple cameras in the Sony Alpha series as well as their DSLR. High confidence in that. I personally like their cell phones. And they supply the camera lenses for almost basically all of the major cell phones. But they cannot seem to put together a cell phone that gets a lot of traction in the cell phone market. So there are things about Sony that I like. But Bravia TVs in some cases have been a lot of chrome and a lot of shine and not a lot of oomph right behind them. So I just want to make sure that this thing would be on the good path before I'd plunk down, like I said, $1,000. And the Bravia TVs, right, and some of those other technologies also carry that kind of Apple tax, right, when it comes to prices. So this would be something I would just want assurances on before I plunk down.
For every Sony, camera that's amazing, there's the Memory Stick Pro Duo debacle from the PSP.
Right. And do you guys remember the PlayStation phone, the Xperia?
Oh, actually, I have a couple. I have at least 3 of them that they basically, because they weren't being used, they gave us to use during demo programs. Oh my God. Yeah. And it's just they had great there were parts of it that were really, really good, and it's just parts that just needed to bake a little bit longer. Just they had potential.
Right, and that's what I mean, right? It's the notion of an Xperia phone, right? With Xperia's Sony's cell phone brand, right? That was also co-branded as a PlayStation. That's a wonderful idea about a convergence device. And Sony gets many of those. It does not always come off right with the best execution. So, getting into an adjacent lane like this, I would just want assurances.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you. Game Logic. The interesting thing, G-Sync, when I hear G-Sync also, I think someone else spotted this in the chat, but I was thinking Sony's got an AMD, chip in it, right? And AMD is FreeSync, so I don't know.
Yeah, so generally speaking, those technologies are compatible. Like the NVIDIA GPUs will take advantage of FreeSync. FreeSync is open source. And so NVIDIA can readily accommodate that in their stack. And normally, I forget some of the descriptions behind this. It's tough for me to pull it. So, but but normally those technologies are inherent in the display, and the PlayStation will be able to um, take advantage of them with that HDMI 2.0 spec. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and the VRR capability is a child specification of that HDMI 2.0 spec. It is also then there are TVs that then implement VRR capability even though they are not HDMI 2.0, and so you will get weird things where there will be an HDMI 1 point whatever TV that is also VRR capable, but that does not mean that it will work with the PlayStation 5, right? So you just get all sorts of BRAP, you and I have talked about this before. When I talk about standards implementation across multiple commercial vendors, it gets very wonky and hairy. So I would suspect that, I mean, they said it's VRR compatible, so how, under whichever specification they have implemented it, it's going to be fully compatible with the PlayStation 5 and what it needs to do with VRR. So, I mean, the only question that would generate was, if you use a PC with a Radeon GPU, is it going to be able to take advantage of the monitor? In every case that I've seen, my FreeSync monitors and my G-Sync monitors work across multiple GPUs. But in general, I would recommend that if you use a gaming PC, don't use a Radeon GPU. So hopefully that wouldn't be a problem for you.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. If these rumors come to fruition, if we get these monitors. But yeah, I won't be. If they do drop, I will not be one of those individuals buying one of these monitors. So, I know this wasn't like an official topic, but I gotta bring this up. Anyone surprised that Bobby Kotick is got voted back by the board and Activision for another year?
I guess I shouldn't be surprised, I am disappointed.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so go ahead, Chrono.
No, I agree with Logic on this. It's just the guy's Teflon apparently, and doesn't matter what he does or what becomes revealed about his tenure as boss at the I don't well apparently he's making money for the board, and that's what's important to them. So
Yeah, that's
Somebody-
what. Go ahead,
Somebody in
Logic.
chat, please work on a Bobby Kotick meme in a cat suit, because he is Catman. This man has 9 lives. I don't get it, but I mean, it's what we said. When the whole thing went down about like the discovery that he had made a death threat right against a former like executive assistant or something like that, and I'm like, before like the ink was dry on the story, the board was releasing a press release that said basically we've got Kotick's back, and I'm like, guys, like, maybe you ought to let that marinate for a while, right? Before you jump right in the pool, right? In defense of the guy, before you have even heard the whole story reported. And it's just flabbergasting, right? The complete lack of due diligence, due process, right? Making sure we understand the full length of the story before it seems like people are, just kind of jumping to that guy's defense. And I have to wonder how Microsoft feels that's going to play. I mean, that to me, like, puts a bad smell on, right, when the FTC goes to pull the hood off of this thing. So it's just weird to see how it's going to play out.
Yeah, it is. And again, I mean, like, the shareholders voted to, the board of directors. I mean, they just gave him another year, and I don't understand it. I mean, you had ongoing efforts from internal employees, other shareholders, saying, "Hey, this guy needs to go." And you're right, he did threaten someone, and that came to light. And here he is. I guess at the end of the day, it's money. Money's more important than, I guess, doing the right thing. I mean, who should be surprised by that anyway? So I mean. I wonder what's gonna. I guess I wonder what's gonna happen when this deal goes through and Microsoft is like, okay, you got to believe that they're not going to keep him around. Go ahead, Logic.
Well, that's what I wonder too. We heard that there were internal conflicts between board members who didn't want the board to take the Microsoft deal, right, and so it'd be interesting, to be a fly on the wall and to know. I can definitely see a dynamic where they couldn't stop the Microsoft deal from going through, but what they were able to wage influence over was this decision. And if there's any hope that the decision to retain Kotick, right, puts the merger acquisition at risk, right, which would give them then the favorable outcome that they were looking for. It'll just be interesting to see, how it plays out. It could also be, you said it was, keeps him around for 1 year, so it just may be a matter of, maintaining the status quo for a year to wait for the shakeup that's eventually going to come if they do the merger and acquisition anyway. I can kind of sort of understand that logic, but it just seems, again, being that his name has specifically been one targeted that is going to cause you increased scrutiny when this thing goes under the microscope. I just don't know that that's a risk that I would have entertained or that I would have preferred to kind of do some house cleaning beforehand, right? Because they're going to find rats, right? But I may have been of the mind to try and minimize the amount of rats that they were going to find.
Yeah. Hey, big shout out to Kreger Von Doom, by the way. He says, Bobby acts like he owns a Washington football team or something. Yes. Great comparison. Our own Dan Snyder, who's too busy to sit down and speak to the Oversight Committee of Congress, apparently. Now he's going to be subpoenaed. That's another guy. That's another dirtball, by the way. Don't get me started on the Washington Commanders and Dan Snyder as an owner, because I will go on a rant of rants. Yeah, but I wonder, like, again, I got to imagine, though, that he's got another year, and then once this deal goes through, I got to imagine, like, Phil, I don't know if it's Phil who makes that decision, but somebody at Microsoft's probably like, hey, Bobby, you got to go. I don't see him staying. He can't stay, right?
I cannot see the cultural intermix between Nadella, Spencer, Todd Howard, Pete Hines, and Bobby Kotick. Like, that just does not seem, that just seems like oil and water. I mean, and have whatever opinions you want to have about those personalities and those individuals, right, positive or negative. But at the end of the day, what I come down on is whether you believe in them or not, whether you agree with their philosophy and strategies or not, I'm hard-pressed to imagine any perspective that would say those personalities all seem like a bunch of, these four are not like the other, right? And wouldn't make sense from a business perspective, intermixing them all in a room. I can't. I'm hard pressed to imagine, like, those personalities, that culture, right, kind of stomaching and withstanding, a Kotick type of personality in that mix.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, he would be the odd man out, I would think. And if in considering, Satya's push for diversity and inclusiveness, that maybe not necessarily being the case at Activision. I don't see how that works out. And I think if he stayed, I think it'd be a PR nightmare for Microsoft too.
Well, can you imagine him walking into a conference room and sitting down next to Sarah Bond?
Sarah, Sarah, why don't you go get us some water? That's my chair.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be... Croto, were you going to chime in, man? I think I may have cut you off, man.
No, not at all. It boggles my... I don't understand why, like, Microsoft didn't say anything to, like, the board and say, look, guys, I know this is probably not the wisest thing for you to, I'm surprised they didn't try and do any sort of influence, but I guess that would have messed up the deal.
They can't. Yeah, they really can't. They have no say. They can't do anything. All they could do is just sit there and shake their head, or maybe count the days to be like, you know what? Walk in there like Vince McMahon, be like, "You're fired," or whatever Vince used to say. That's probably the only thing they could do. But yeah, it's not a good look on Activision right now that they brought that guy back. But hey, he makes them a lot of money, so money talks, bullshit walks, right? Or that's how the saying goes, I think. But I don't know. Not that this is bullshit, but it's serious business. But yeah, I mean, it's Yeah, it's just I was in some ways when I read this today I was shocked then not shocked. So, but yeah, Bobby Kotick's an asshole, and hopefully I don't know. Hopefully I don't know. Hopefully something happens where he's held accountable. There's some accountability here. There's just no accountability right now. At least I'm not seeing
I mean,
it.
yeah, there was that article. I know Jim Sterling reported on it, but Activision was found, none of the allegations stuck. According to the internal study in the internal investigation of Activision, Activision themselves said that they didn't do anything wrong. So I'm just like, oh, how fucking convenient that you found nothing wrong that you guys did. So.
Wow. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's convenient. It's almost like the Washington Commanders, which I promise I won't talk about anymore.
But this is my thing too, and maybe it saddens me a little to say this or to feel like I have to say it. And this was a conversation, right, Deli and I had when he was on the show. Like, being in an adjacent career track and market, right, where I'm also in software development, but not inside game development. I look at game developers and those engineers, right, as brothers and sisters. And I'm like, I go back to you, I implore you, right? There are tons of jobs in market adjacencies that use your exact skill sets that are unfilled today, that give greater salaries, greater bonuses, better benefits, better quality of life. If this leadership falls below your threshold of the expectations as an employee, which it would for mine, I implore those developers, those engineers, get out, right? I love Call of Duty, right? But my love for Call of Duty does not exceed, right, my wish and desire for developers and engineers to take charge of their careers, in charge of their lives, and send a clear signal, right, and better their own situation by exiting that space. Like, I don't understand, as a career professional engineer, I don't understand why you would subject yourself to this as your leadership. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I don't get it either. I don't get it.
And there's a bunch of talented folk at Activision, and that any company would be proud to have in their ranks, and yet they are still there, with Activision, and it makes no sense.
And I mean, I say I don't get it. I mean, I get aspects of it. Like, I get that people love to create. I get that people love to be enabled to, if you're going to pour 4 or 5, I mentioned this on Twitter too, right? If you're going to pour 4 or 5 years of your life into a thing, and this is an argument that I get in with gamers, right? Where I feel like they don't get it. I get compensated well for what I do, right? And it's very easy to throw a log on the fire and say, when I say, look, I don't want to spend 4 to 5 years of my life wasting my time, right? And people say, well, you're well paid, right? You should be able to suck it up. You should be able to deal with it. But I guess what people sometimes don't understand or don't admit is, like, look, I have a finite time in my career, right, to do the most incredible work that I can hope and pray to be enabled to do. Right, as a creative, right, as somebody who envisions solutions to problems that are solved with software, I do not want to waste any of that limited time, right, contributing to something that I feel isn't right, isn't the best use of my talents, right, doesn't make the most out of whatever that limited time is. And as a game developer, right, as a creative in another field, I would want to have the exact same perspective. So regardless of how well people get paid, right, I don't believe that anyone of those kindred souls, right, wants to spend their time investing in a project, their livelihood, right, their blood, sweat, tears, late nights, no sleep, right, being involved in something that they're not going to be proud of. and again, I understand that aspect of it, but you should also have a high expectation for what your leadership is. And when your leadership is clearly devoid of morals, devoid of ethics, just not, BRAP, you and I talked about it, like these high level officers, these C-level officers have two jobs, right? Take care of your people, right? Grow the company, right? And I would argue clearly there's some element in some degree to which they're not taking care of their people, and again, why you would just continue to do that just to collect a paycheck when you could go collect a larger paycheck somewhere else. I don't understand.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I mean, it's I've seen that argument. Oh, you make enough money, you make a lot of money, so it's like, why are you complaining? I've seen that why are you complaining? You're paid well type of things, type of commentary. Money's only one piece of the puzzle.
Right. People can maintain a sustainable livelihood, right? Doing less and putting up with less BS, right? The paycheck blunts some of that pain, but it doesn't make the wholesale experience, right, positive. If the experience is still negative, it's still not something that I would contend that you want to be spending your time doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we're gonna move on from Bobby Kotick to something I kind of saw online that I found kind of interesting. Xbox fans angry at Square Enix over the Final Fantasy VII Remake or lack thereof on the Xbox platform, and I don't understand. Look, I understand being disappointed, and I understand this game was supposed to be coming to the Xbox. Doesn't seem like it's happening. I heard it's not happening, but we'll see. Maybe it comes later on. But some of the, like, I get being upset, but like using words like they have spat on our face, like that's a little over the top for me. Like, I don't understand where that comes from. And I gotta say, like, if you're an adult, there's no reason to I think use that kind of language to describe a game not coming to a platform. And if you've been doing this long enough, you got two choices. You shrug your shoulders, move on, play what you have on the platform you pick, because if you pick that one platform, you don't have any other platforms. You probably picked that platform for a specific experience, or maybe a service or content. You're not going to get all the games. No one ever gets all the games unless you all own all the platforms. But I found it interesting. I found it to be kind of an interesting reaction from some of the diehard Xbox fans. And again, I would say if Final Fantasy VII is a game you really want to play now, you really only have a couple of choices. Wait for it or buy a PlayStation. And again, if you've been doing this long enough, playing video games long enough, this is part of the course. This is what happens in the industry. This is, companies are vying for our attention. They make these deals to lock content. I mean, look, Microsoft just bought they bought two big publishers, and we'll be pulling outside of probably Call of Duty, we'll be pulling many games that have been multi-plat. Starfield was supposed to be on PlayStation as well. It was actually in development for PlayStation as well, before Microsoft dropped the bag at Bethesda. But if you want to play that game, you got a couple choices. You buy an Xbox, or maybe you get a decent PC rig, which I would recommend you do anyway. You play it there. But I just was kind of taken back by the anger directed at Square Enix. I don't think, look, again, it's video games. I don't think this is that big of a deal, personally speaking. So, Chrono, what are your thoughts on this, man? And the Xbox fans being angry. Do you think Final Fantasy VII is ever going to come to the Xbox?
Now going back to like when the game was initially announced, that it was considered a timed exclusive, but it was. I don't remember them ever saying it was supposed to be on. It was supposed to come on Xbox. by I mean, this is, PlayStation playing the letter of the law situation. It went multi-plat technically when it went to PC, and thus fulfilling its, other system requirements and stuff like that. And I get it, as an Xbox fan, that would probably piss me off too. But the it always kills me that, Microsoft has the money. They could have done exactly the same thing that PlayStation did and tried to court Square Enix and say, "Hey, Square, if you take our money, and give us the timed exclusive rights to this game, we will make it the best that we can make it." And here's money to, and throw money at their direction. Um, but I wonder if Microsoft even tried or even attempted to do something like that. With PlayStation, they made it clear, this is what we can offer. This is the marketing dollars that we can offer. This is what we can do to make your game as good as it is. Especially with the largest install base and the type of game, and it's definitely the type of game that our PlayStation players want to play. So we'll get all of those people. I mean, did Microsoft attempt to do the same thing? And in a certain way, I wonder exactly. Yeah, I've always felt that Xbox gamers were different in that the types of games that they like to play um, are different. As there are those outliers that do like to play different styles of games, but realistically, Japanese uh, uh, games don't really resonate with the Xbox community. And with that, I'm just like, well, if there's a game that comes out that's like Final Fantasy, like a Tales to Arise, um, either make sure the Xbox community buys into it, or if it's on Game Pass, you better engage with the game and play it, and talk about it and try and get as many people to play it as possible, downloading it and playing it as possible on Game Pass. I worry about like Persona, because it's fantastic that it's on Game Pass and it opens it up to a world of possibilities for people to play it, but will the Xbox players actually play it? And so I know it's sort of combined two different things, but it all boils down to, was the Xbox really the best place uh, to put the development money and marketing money in to try and get it there? Yeah, I guess an argument could be made that, anything, there's still people on Xbox that would have just been extra money, but, you know, I don't know. That's what I have to say.
So just to make sure, is this Final Fantasy 16 that's not coming to Xbox?
No,
No, the part remake.
well, 16 is not coming to Xbox either, but
Yeah, there's
the
that.
the Final Fantasy 7 remake, which was announced to be releasing
Part
on
two.
multiple
Yeah.
platforms back in 2015, when it was announced officially, was supposed to be released on multiple platforms. Now, I think Chrono brought up a great point. I am looking for news articles where it was supposed to be released on the Xbox as well. The announcement that I found was that in fact it was supposed to release on the PlayStation 4 and then other platforms in the future. I don't know if Eric B says Square Enix is garbage. Well thought out comment there, Eric B. I could tell you put a lot of brain power in that thought, Eric B. Thank you for that. Maybe next time put it in color so my brain cells don't melt. Yeah, I'm scouring the internet right now looking for the remake announcement, and it being let's see here. It says work has already started on Final Fantasy Remake. Okay.
I do remember that when they announced the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, that they also extended the exclusivity, by a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, beyond that, I don't ever remember anything specifically mentioning Xbox. And again, letter of the law, technically by going to PC, it went multi-platform technically, and I guess that's, and I guess maybe that was a part of the marketing agreement with Sony.
So I mean, I agree kind of with what Chrono was saying before about kind of what the expectation, or maybe I might argue that it's a stereotype of, the kind of game that an Xbox gamer, likes, and I would say across the spectrum, that is probably still the community and that stereotype that I mostly align with, right? Where I mostly play shooters and racing games, and when BRAP makes a comment like, well, maybe Xbox makes the best racing games, I feel like that's an insult and I feel attacked, right? Like there are those of us who like this kind of games and that kind of content, and I think that's fine. But when this whole thing went down and like there was the spark of outrage about these games or this game or whatever not coming to Xbox, I just felt it was like this big kind of Assassin's Creed reveal moment, right? Where it's like a bunch of people out in the crowd threw their hoods back, threw their cloaks off, and went, we're the unknown Final Fantasy fans that have existed all this time in the Xbox community, and now we're angry, right, that we're not getting this thing. So it's fine, whatever. It's kind of like Brap said. I mean, I understand the disappointment, but there are other avenues, right, to consume that content, and I would say from a, I always believe as a consumer, right, positioning yourself in the areas where you're not exposed to risk. And I would say if you were expecting or looking for these Final Fantasy titles, you were probably at a high-risk lane to hope and expect and lean on that faith that they were going to come to Xbox. In this bit is totally speculation. By the same token, Chrono, you mentioned how hard did Xbox try. I have been on, in part of a business where I've gotten hey, you need to grow the business this way, you need to grow the business that way, and then get paired up with the marketing exec, right, who has that account, who's supposed to grow the business that way. And I've definitely seen scenarios where, like this would have been that account exec, like going to SquareEnix and having a discussion about how much money it was going to take, and coming back to Microsoft and saying, we can get the deal for this much, and despite your whole job, right, you being told that your responsibility is to grow and capture this content, when rubber meets the road and the C-level officers get presented the price tag, they suddenly go, yeah, we're not that interested. Right? So, it's curious, I'd be curious to know, if it ever comes out, how this went down. And, I mean, like you said, I mean, while Xbox wants this kind of stuff, I too am hard pressed to believe that, right, that there's a dollar amount that I can clearly see them saying, yeah, it's not that big a deal. We don't need it that big. There's not enough of our addressable consumer base that wants that for us to stretch that far.
Yeah, which is again why I say that I hope to God that the Persona series is successful on Xbox and Game Pass. Because then it will show Microsoft and developers that there is a market there, and maybe you'll start seeing more of those types of games.
So let me ask the question, just in case what I feel like was a set of logical rationale that I presented makes anyone angry at having to face that as a potential truth. Let me also salt the ground with the notion, I don't feel like enough PlayStation gamers played Death Stranding. And so do you think similar impetus was behind Kojima, right, reaching across the aisle to begin an association with Microsoft?
I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think that I know that we definitely tried, but especially to market that, but it was so obtuse to try and market it well, interacting with customers and stuff like that, and I wonder if I mean, it did well, but I know that they had really, really high hopes for it to do, like absolutely gangbusters. And maybe there was a lack of faith also in PlayStation's part, which is why they said, hey, go ahead and shop that game to someone else, see if they're willing to take that risk. But and your next game, if it's a banger, then definitely, come back to us. But, maybe this new project that you're working on would be better suited elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if PlayStation had that discussion.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that, considering what we know about how PlayStation greenlights AAA games. We know about Days Gone. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But as I go back and look at the announcement at E3 2015, the announcement was it was coming to PlayStation 4 first, and then eventually PC, and that was it. So I'm still trying to find where it was going to be coming to Xbox. Perhaps they said multiple platforms and people assumed it was coming to Xbox. I don't know. I've heard rumblings that this game's not going to see the daylight on Xbox. Like, again, I don't. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's.
This is from a base of fandom that commingles with another base of fandom that throws shade at a developer because a game was, in air quotes, delayed when no official release date for that game was ever announced. Right? So
yeah.
These are the things that we make things out of that are not really things, right? Because the company never said that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that was ever really announced for Xbox, but I'm not seeing it. I've been looking for it, news articles, and I haven't seen anything other than Adam Boyes talking about it coming to PlayStation 4 first, and then PC. And so I don't know. They are getting. I mean, Xbox is getting Crisis Core. I hope people play that. And I think there's something to be said about. Again, I'm not trying to stereotype, the player base of Xbox, but it does seem to me that these games aren't the type of games that people on that platform play much of. I was screaming from the mountaintop when Microsoft landed. When they landed Dragon Quest 11, which Dragon Quest is an iconic franchise, JRPG franchise. It was known as Dragon War when it first released here in the U.S. in 1988, I think, or 89. I don't remember, but I still actually have the original box and cartridge. It was on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I still have that. I just don't. I just remember Dragon Quest 11, and I just didn't see a lot of chatter about it. I didn't see a lot of people in forums or the social media and Xbox communities talking about Dragon Quest 11. And I think Persona is a huge gift for the Xbox platform. I'm just not so sure that a lot of people are going to play it. And Dragon Quest 11 was on Game Pass, and I just don't. I don't think that. I don't think. I don't think that's. Yeah, I don't see people playing this. Hey, Logic, I just saw this quote. Sony money hat and Sega out of the console business.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was it again?
Sony money hadn't Sega out of the console business. Have you heard that argument before?
It depends on the context of it. I mean, if they're talking about kind of the competitive years between Sega platforms and Sony platforms, I mean, there was definitely that back and forth where Sony would constantly price cut the PlayStation in comparison to, I think it was the Sega Saturn was the biggest.
Sega Saturn, yeah, it was so
heated war between them on pricing, just because the Saturn was so expensive to produce, and Sony was just able to keep cutting price, and there was no way that they could get the Saturn down, because if you look at the technology, right, it's actually arguable Saturn was the more technically advanced platform, but therefore it was also expensive, right? So I don't know.
Hold on, I gotta get some clarification on this, because this is a hold on a second. Hold on. Are you? Hold on, I gotta reply to this.
I also remember when the Dreamcast was announced, and then so soon after like very, very quickly after PlayStation 2, they started revealing more information about the PlayStation 2, and it just basically killed the momentum of the Dreamcast because all of a sudden the PlayStation 2 had a Blu-ray a DVD player, and it's just like, oh, and then Sony and Sega started to scramble because it just was a gaming system. And I just remember just how deflated Sega was in terms of within the uh, magazine and reporting that people just didn't have the same faith in Sega after Sony basically undercut them with their
wait.
with the PS2 announcements.
Skywalker just said, "I'm mad because Sega was once an American company."
No.
What?
There was an American. There was an American branch.
Yeah, there was an American division, but that division. That division
Skywalker. Hold on. I'm sorry, Gameline. Dude, Skywalker, please tell me you're trolling. Tell me that you're either drunk or you're just trolling us because Sega is not an American company. If you really thought that, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Game.
It had a very powerful American branch. A lot of decisions were made. Like there were some like the 3DX was the part of the American branch. So, the American branch was very.
Yeah, the American and the Japanese sides, there was a lot of, from my understanding, a lot of
misunderstandings.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they had a very vocal and very popular American branch, but like I feel like from a historical perspective, like Reggie and Nintendo America waged more influence and got more of their way within Nintendo than that Sega American branch did within Sega.
Oh yeah, the American branch basically tried to bully their way through and just basically brute force their way through things instead of a unified understanding.
Yeah.
He's saying it was founded by two Americans in 1960. So Martin Bromley, Richard Stewart, but I mean, whatever.
I don't know where you got that history from. But one thing I was going to mention about back on the Final Fantasy discussion, right, is, I mean, like you guys are saying, right, if fans want that content, you missed out this time, right? But if you want to send that signal to Microsoft that that's stuff that you want, you gotta spend the money and invest the time in playing the stuff that is available when it shows up. One thing I'll say along with that is you also, I talked about, positioning yourself to mitigate risk, right, as a consumer. You also need to correlate that with data. Look, and I get it. Like, if you are a passionate, hardcore lover of Final Fantasy, but you are an army of thousands instead of an army of millions, you need to recognize, right, that data correlation and understand, like, you can love it all that you want to. You can be as passionate about it all that you want to. You can, right, shout to the high heavens on Twitter all that you want to. But if the sales data and the consumption data and Game Pass, right, is a consumption-based service that really dilutes the waters and kind of being able to understand kind of where you sit within an ecosystem, you need to understand if the demand signal isn't there across the entire platform, then as much as you love it, again, you're still going to be in a risky position, right, if you're leaning on blind faith and hope for those things to show up there. And if that's really what you love and that's really what you want, right, as BRAP said, like, you gotta probably need to seek alternatives, right, to position yourself in a place where you have a higher guarantee that content's gonna come there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, man. I'm actually reading more about this Sega. Sega was founded. So actually, Sega was founded by American businessman Martin Bromley, Richard Stewart as Nihon Goraku Busan on June 3rd, 1960, shortly after the company acquired the assets of its predecessor, Service Games of Japan. So, okay. So it was formed from the acquisition of a Japanese company?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I guess it may have been American born, but it is modern Sega has is Japanese. So, or at least the Sega that everyone knows is very much Japanese. So,
yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, but yeah, no, that's a great point. Game Logic. Um, but yeah, but they are getting Crisis Core.
that is true. That is true. Is it? Do you know if that's on Game Pass or is it just going to be on the system?
I don't know, man. I don't think it's on Game Pass. I don't think it's on Game Pass. Well, Crisis Core is important though, right? It is essentially the precursor, so we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I hope people play it. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I still think Crisis Core is still a great get for the Xbox platform. And who knows? And that could be. And maybe they do get Final Fantasy VII afterwards. You know, at some point. You know, so we'll see. But I think Crisis Core is a great get for that platform. Add that with, you know, games like Persona 5 and Persona 4 now. You know, and what's the other? Persona 4 Golden, Persona 3. I think those are great gets. I mean, again, I said this last week. I think, you know, Microsoft's doing some good things in terms of trying to get more of the you know, the Japanese titles onto the Xbox platform. So, you know, some of these games may make it to Game Pass. Some might not. I don't think Crisis Core is going to be a Game Pass thing, though. I could be wrong, but I don't think it is. You know, I feel like if it was, it's something that Microsoft would have maybe talked about already. So we'll see. All right. Yeah. So you know what? That's it in terms of topics for this evening. Does anyone else have any other things they want to talk about before we wrap up the show, or are we good?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
I sense what's been distracting you, BRAP, has been you're trying to untie the knot on the Sega history thing from the thing that Skywalker mentioned.
Oh yeah, so, I was reading it. Yeah.
So I get what he's saying about Sega, and I knew I had read this before, and I was like, something wasn't resonating me with that DNA, right? So the corporation was started off right by Americans, but by the time the company was entering the console business, right, its Japanese leadership orchestrated a buyout of the American assets, and that's why the company became headquartered in Japan, right? So the Sega that we think of today, I think of as a Japanese company. Like unless you were born in the 1940s and fought in World War II and played coin-operated pinball machines right on Hawaii at Pearl Harbor, then I don't think the Sega that was an American-owned business right was anything any of us experienced. I think what we predominantly know and are aware of is the Japanese-centric, Japanese-headquartered, Japanese-led Sega business that entered the console market. So I think that's why there was a lack of willingness to accept the notion of Sega being an American company. I think the Sega that we know was a company that was led out of Japan.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. But Skywalker has this weird thing with, I don't know, American companies. I don't know. He said some things in the live chat that are interesting. But anyhow, yeah, no. So look, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. But I want to say, actually, before I do that, I got a super chat. We have Doria Gray with the $5 super chat says, so is someone going to claim the Final Fantasy VII series sold poorly on PC because PC gets screwed on this deal too, with late releases and bad ports? What do you say, Logic, as the resident PC gamer in the house? What do you say to that, sir?
I honestly don't know. I guess. I mean, where does it release on PC other than on Steam? Because if
it's just on Steam, as far as I know.
Yeah. So my feeling is that's a conversation for Valve. Like I really don't know. I just as I think about the demographic, and I'm thinking while I'm talking here, this is not something that I've considered before, or definitely have a perspective on. Is I just feel like if you're heavily vested and interested in the Final Fantasy franchise, is PC your core target for like platform to experience that on? I just don't know that it is. So I feel like what I've seen and been exposed to in conversations around is people who do play Final Fantasy on PC. It's an oh by the way, it's somebody who maybe started off on PlayStation platform and then eventually kind of graduated to the PC and moved on. But
went to Epic first, by the way. That's somebody in the live chat just said. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, Epic has been struggling to not struggling, but has been gaining market share, but wasn't a significant player on the landscape at its outset. So I just feel like the user base of people who would be playing that content would be higher on Steam. And like I said, I just don't know that it moves the needle a lot on Steam. I'll have to take a look and see whether it charts in the top 100 concurrent players or.
Yeah, the MMO Final Fantasy 14 is actually pretty big on PC.
Yes, the MMO.
But that doesn't surprise me though on PC. But I would say this: if somebody's really into Final Fantasy the series, they probably own a PlayStation, right? I mean, like most. Go ahead.
Like I say, unless it's a player who's moved on, right? Then I can see, okay, well maybe you go back to it, right? Because it's available. I mean, just like me, I'm a lapsed, former PlayStation platform owner and player who has moved on, but when those titles show up on PC, yeah, I go back and play them. But those titles aren't big enough gets to motivate me to own a piece of PlayStation hardware, and that's just kind of how I evaluate. Maybe that demographic plays out right on the PC.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't know. I just think that again, if and that's a great point. Like if you left and come back, but again, I just think if you're looking for JRPGs. It's like PlayStation is that platform is the place to have those experiences. I think it has been for a long time now, since the inception of the PlayStation.
At AAA equivalency, right? I would actually say if you are a big, huge JRPG fan, I can see you having a core existence on PC because I think there's a lot of that content available on PC as indies. But if you're looking for the big spectacle of a JRPG, yeah, I'd agree with you that probably lives at its heart. Really lives at its heart on Nintendo, I think. And then the next nearest get is PlayStation, I think. But again, I'm not an expert right on that content and kind of how its fans think.
Yeah, and you're right. There's some other JRPGs that you can that you can like on PC that you can get, like where it's on PC, like some of the smaller ones, like I think Trails of Cold Steel comes to mind as one. So
Tales of Arise.
Tales of Arise, yeah, but that's on PlayStation as well.
Oh yeah.
Dorian Gray, who I'm a huge fan of Victorian era fiction, and so that's a great name. I'd be curious about what was the business reasoning behind this move as well. All of these games seem to be reviewed very well by the user community on Steam, who is the one gaming user community that I actually think has any validity or credibility, and I trust and incorporate into my decision making on what games I buy. All these Final Fantasy titles on Steam are all very well reviewed, right? Very positive, very positive, very positive, very positive. You don't get to some negative aspects until you get to Final Fantasy, what is this, 8 remastered, which is not reviewed well. Final Fantasy 13-2, and Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. This titling schema is very much near craziness to me. But yeah, it seems the vast majority of these titles are like very well received, at least by the Steam community. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to know whether or not the critical acceptance by the community does not equate to how the sales chart. And that may have been the reason Square moved the way it did, but typically that does not seem to be the case on Steam and for a lot of these larger titles. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I don't know. Some interesting comments about Final Fantasy 14. People are suggesting WoW was better than Final Fantasy 14. I can't comment on that. I haven't played WoW in a long time, and I haven't played Final Fantasy 14, so can't comment on that. But anyhow, no, look, great conversation as always. Big shout out to everyone in the live chat. I did have to mute some people for just being asshats, so like it's cool if you come in here, hang out, chat, shoot the shit. If you're gonna be an asshat though, don't come here. Like that's just not cool. Do something more productive with your time. Go play a video game, have a cup of coffee, watch your favorite television show, go outside for a walk, take a breath of fresh air. But anyhow,
don't tell them to touch grass, man. People get offended at that.
Yes, to touch grass. Perhaps get a significant other. That might help. Just do something. Like, I just don't understand. Don't come in here being an asshat is my point. Like, because if you're doing that, I think that speaks volumes to you as an individual. And I will call you out on that. So, anyhow, but everyone else in live chat. No, thank you again. I really appreciate. You guys coming out and hanging out with us and talking shop, if you will. And to be fair, please hit that like button. If you're new to the show, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. I will be doing a BRAP rant this Friday at like 3:15 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely check that out. Come hang out with us on Friday. I'm going to be discussing. There was an article on Vice about Halo Infinite, believe it or not, which I'm going to discuss. 343's handling of Halo Infinite and Halo, just a Halo franchise overall. And I'm also going to be discussing the BRAP rant, the promises that the promises and marketing that Microsoft put behind this Xbox Series X. And has Microsoft lived up, or is the Xbox Series X console more specifically lived up to a lot of the hype and promise of being the world's most powerful console ever? So I'll be talking about that on Friday. So that's going to be a fun show. But I want to give a big shout out to my guest here, Chrono. Hey man, always a pleasure having you on. Hey, open door policy, man. Anytime you want to come on the show, just let me know, man.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I didn't want to make it seem like I was dodging you every time you asked.
Oh no, man, no, I get it, man. I get it.
Every time it's just like I would love, like I really wanted to be there last week to talk about the Xbox show and everything like that. I even took notes and shit of the show just so I'd be ready to talk about it, and my schedule just didn't allow for it. So
oh yeah, no worries, man. No, like I said, I appreciate finally getting you on the show, man. And like I said, man, anytime you want to come on, just shoot me a DM, man. Let me know. So
all right, definitely.
But always a pleasure, man. And Chrono, if you want to be found on Twitters, I'll let everyone know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love talking to the community. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for BRAP having me on. Logic, always fun hearing you talk. But yeah, if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter, Chrono0666. We can talk video games, comic books, movies. Talk about my financial irresponsibility of buying a $260 Mondo 1/6 scale He-Man figure. I don't know. We can do all that. So yeah. So follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And oops, what happened here? Oh, here we go. And Logic, man. Hey, always a pleasure, man. Always appreciate you coming on. Always appreciate your insight. We definitely got it back. I got to get back to some Halo Infinite with you, man. Maybe tomorrow, man. If you're up for it, or if you're around. I know you have a show tomorrow, so maybe after your show tomorrow, if you're available. But
Our show has moved to Sunday
Oh, that's
nights.
right. That's right.
So-
You moved to the weekends. That's right. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
I did see that
so,
tweet. Yeah.
But get yourself in the queue. I had lots of people are asking me to get back over to Destiny 2 and fire team up. So
No, not Destiny 2. What are you gonna do over there? Like run raids? Strikes?
there's the opportunity, right? I don't do raids normally because I never foresee putting aside 6 to 8 hours potentially to get through it. That requires a highly reliable and dependable group of people. But these are all mutuals on Twitter who we frequently podcast and associate with each other. So I think it is the type of group that I would pony up for a raid with. So that might be possible. That might be the reason to finally get on, because I just don't normally bother with raids.
Oh man. So all right. I'm gonna have to see if I can pull you off of Destiny 2 then.
But no commitment's been made. No commitment's been made yet. So get yourself in the queue. I would definitely be down to do either.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the only thing I can think of is, I wouldn't mind getting back into Destiny 2. The problem is I just don't really have anyone to play with, really, right? Like, I don't.
Yeah, we can do it, man. I mean, I think this is also a group of people who haven't necessarily played through all of the Witch Queen content and even some of the legacy campaigns. So I don't mind going back and having run those myself. Help.
Yeah, I know. We played a little bit of the Witch Queen, and I got to finish it, man. Like I haven't finished it yet. So, yeah, I mean, I might be up for that, but I really do. I just the great thing about Halo Infinite is it's so easy just to pick up and play and get back into it.
Hey, that's what I've been writing about all week, man. I'm just really right now digging the games where when I get into them, I don't onboard any anxiety about I gotta get from point A to point B in a certain increment of time. And while I'm doing that, I'm also not playing all these other things, right? It's a thing I can choose to participate in or not participate in. I can have it in rotation with other games, right? And that's, at least right now, that's just more to my lifestyle and liking than the story-based stuff. So yeah, I'm there with you.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I've been very critical of Halo Infinite, but people only seem to hear the criticism, but I'm also still playing it, and because the gameplay, I mean, when you're in game, it plays very well. It's just, oh man, the content, and there's rumors, and I'll talk about this on Friday. There's rumors that there's a leak of potential content that's coming, but some of this stuff's not going to be available until 2023. Late 2023, so it's just like, oh my goodness. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, everyone, again, thank you all for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell notifications so you're alerted when we go live. Again, I'll be doing a hold on a sec here. Going to be doing a BRAP rant this Friday at 3:15 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely come out and hang out with me then. May have some of the BRAP panel members. Big shout to the BRAP panel members who couldn't make it this evening. B Money, Slow-Mo Backslap, and Gaming Forte. But they'll be back next week. So on that note, we're out, everyone. See you Friday, and in the meantime, just enjoy playing some video games. We're out.